Have you ever felt the quiet kind of pain, the one no one else can see? Not the wound on your skin, but the ache in your soul when the world applauds your success, yet inside you feel like a hollow shell. We chase money, approval, and comfort, but still wake at 3 a.m., haunted by thoughts that refuse to let us rest. This is the deepest suffering of the human heart, to appear whole on the outside while slowly breaking within. What if I told you that the very habits you think keep you safe are the chains holding you prisoner, and that true peace is not found by adding more, but by daring to let go? If this stirs something in you, don't miss what comes next. Subscribe now to Buddhism in every moment so you never miss the wisdom and stories that can free your heart. Your support gives us the strength to create more videos that awaken, heal, and inspire. Part 1. The Restless Mind and the Weight of Overthinking. Have you ever paused at the end of a long day and asked yourself, why, even after working so hard, after chasing so many goals, do I still feel restless inside? In the modern world where every second is filled with noise, information, and endless demands, peace has become one of the rarest treasures. People today are praised for productivity, admired for their achievements, yet countless nights are spent lying awake, staring into the ceiling, their thoughts racing like wild horses in the dark. This is the quiet crisis of our age, the restless mind chained to the habit of overthinking. Overthinking is not simply thinking too much. It is thinking without rest, thinking without direction, thinking without mercy. It is as if your mind has turned into a restless machine that refuses to stop. Even when your body begs for rest, the mind churns with questions. Will I meet the deadline tomorrow? Did I say the wrong thing earlier? What if I fail? What if they judge me? And the cycle repeats. Each thought breeds another until the weight becomes unbearable. The Buddha compared this restless mind to a monkey leaping from branch to branch, never content to stay still. And truly, when the mind is caught in this endless jumping, peace cannot be found, no matter how comfortable your bed, no matter how safe your home. Picture your inner world as a vast sky. Each thought is a passing cloud. If you let them drift naturally, the sky clears, and you can see the light of peace again. But when you overthink, you grab each cloud, drag it closer, examine it, and build storms around it. Soon the whole sky is dark. This is why overthinking exhausts us, not because the events we worry about are truly happening, but because our minds are rehearsing 1,000 futures that never arrive. Psychologists today confirm what the Buddha taught centuries ago. More than 85% of what we worry about never comes to pass, and in the few cases that do, we often handle them far better than we imagined. Overthinking doesn't prepare us for life, it drains us of life. Think of the countless nights people spend in silence yet not in rest. Lying in bed in a city like New York, the body aches for sleep, but the mind is still attending invisible meetings, replaying conversations, calculating outcomes, chasing fears. Morning arrives, and though you slept, you wake tired. The exhaustion is not from work itself, but from the weight of the restless mind. Peace slips further away, not because life is unkind, but because the mind will not let go. So the question arises, how can one live in this world of endless pressure without drowning in thought? The answer is not in controlling every detail of the future, but in returning to the present moment. The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." To free ourselves from the habit of overthinking, we must release the craving for absolute certainty. Life is impermanent. Nothing is guaranteed. The more we cling to control, the more restless we become. Freedom begins when we dare to accept uncertainty as a natural part of existence. There is a practice I call the digital sunset ritual. 1 hour before sleep, turn off all devices. No screens, no glowing notifications, no endless scroll through news or social media. Just let the mind settle as the sun settles. In that quiet hour, read a gentle book, write a page of reflection, or simply sit in silence. At first, it will feel unnatural, even uncomfortable. But slowly, as your nervous system resets, you will feel something extraordinary. The storm begins to calm. The sky of your mind clears and sleep arrives not as an escape but as a gift. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon at night. The vast sky above is filled with stars, millions of them scattered across the darkness. There are no deadlines here, no judgments, no endless spirals of what if. Only breath, only presence. In that moment, you realize you don't need to solve every problem in the universe to feel safe. You only need to breathe in the now. That is the essence of freedom from overthinking, not the absence of challenges, but the ability to rest in the present despite them. Many people fear that if they stop overthinking, they will lose control, that they will be unprepared. But the truth is the opposite. The calmer the mind, the clearer the action. When we are caught in endless mental rehearsals, we actually make poorer decisions, guided by fear rather than wisdom. But when the mind is still, insight arises naturally, like the reflection of the moon on a quiet lake. To stop overthinking is not to abandon responsibility, it is to sharpen it. If you want to begin this journey, start small. Try the breathing technique known as 4-7-8. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale slowly for 8. Repeat this cycle 3 times whenever you notice your thoughts spiraling. You will be amazed at how quickly the storm dissolves. Or take a journal and pour out the thoughts that circle endlessly in your mind. When words are placed on paper, they lose their grip, and often what felt like a mountain shrinks into a pebble. These simple practices are not trivial. They are keys that unlock the heavy chains of the restless mind. But beyond techniques, there is a deeper lesson. Uncertainty is not your enemy. It is the very fabric of life. When we embrace uncertainty, we no longer need to carry the weight of every possible future. We begin to trust the present moment, and in that trust, the mind can finally rest. So ask yourself right now, what thought is circling in your mind that refuses to let you rest? What fear keeps you awake at night, replaying scenes like a movie you cannot stop? And imagine, what would your life feel like if you could set it down, even for a moment? Overthinking is like drinking a bitter medicine every day that cures nothing. Only when you dare to pause, breathe, and let life flow naturally will you discover the vast, open, peaceful sky within. Because true safety does not come from knowing every outcome. It comes from knowing how to rest in this breath, in this moment, with this life as it is. And in that stillness, you will realize something profound. You never needed to control the sky. You only needed to stop chasing the clouds. The restless mind has many disguises. Sometimes it appears as constant planning, a voice whispering, "If I just think a little more, I'll be prepared." At other times, it takes the shape of self-criticism, replaying every mistake until it feels larger than life. And often it hides behind the noble mask of responsibility, convincing you that worry and overthinking are forms of care. But look closely. Does your constant worry heal anyone's pain? Does your endless planning prevent all mistakes? Or does it simply rob you of the strength to be fully alive when the moment truly comes? Life itself is uncertain, and the more we resist this truth, the heavier our burden grows. Imagine standing on a beach in California, the waves rolling in endlessly. No matter how you try, you cannot hold back the tide. If you clutch at the water, it slips through your fingers. Overthinking is just that, an attempt to stop the tide of life. We think if we analyze enough, we can control every wave, avoid every storm, guarantee safety. But the ocean was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be navigated. And your mind, too, was never meant to be trapped in endless cycles of fear. It was meant to flow, adapt, and rest in the vastness of the present. Consider the toll of overthinking on the body. Sleepless nights become weary mornings. Muscles tighten. The heart beats faster. Even digestion is disturbed. Science confirms what ancient wisdom has always known. The mind and body are not separate. When your mind spins without rest, your body carries the weight. Stress hormones rise, your immune system weakens, and slowly, without realizing, you trade years of your life for thoughts that were never real. And then there is the toll on the soul. Overthinking dims the inner light, stealing your joy for simple moments. A family meal, a walk in the park, a quiet evening, all can be poisoned by the constant hum of worry. You sit with loved ones but are not truly there. Your body is present but your heart and mind are elsewhere, trapped in the prison of what if. In truth, overthinking is not just a mental habit, it is a form of absence, a refusal to inhabit the life that is already yours. The Buddha taught that the mind, left untamed, is like a wild horse, powerful but dangerous. It runs wherever it pleases, dragging you into valleys of fear and mountains of illusion. But when trained with mindfulness, the same mind becomes a noble companion, carrying you gently on the path of peace. The practice is not to destroy thought but to guide it, to bring the horse back to stillness, to allow the clouds to drift and reveal the endless sky. So how do we begin to quiet the restless mind? Start with small, tangible steps. A practical one is the digital sunset ritual. 1 hour before sleep, turn off every device. Let the world go on without you. This hour is sacred, an offering to your peace. Fill it with what nourishes you, a warm bath, a few pages of a book, gentle music, or simply silence. Over time, this ritual becomes a signal to the body and mind. It is time to rest, to let go. And as your nights deepen in quality, your days will bloom with new energy. Another practice is the cultivation of mindful breathing. Do not underestimate the power of a single breath. When the storm of thoughts gathers, close your eyes. Inhale gently, counting to 4. Hold for 7. Exhale slowly for 8. With each cycle, feel the grip of thought loosen, as if your hands release a rope you've been pulling for far too long. This practice does not erase all thoughts, but it interrupts the cycle, allowing you to remember you are here, alive, breathing, and safe in this very moment. There is also the practice of journaling. Each night, take 5 minutes to write freely. Pour out the tangled web of thoughts onto paper. Do not judge them. Do not edit. Just release them. You may be surprised at what you see. What felt overwhelming in the mind often looks small and even laughable when written down. And by placing thoughts on paper, you place them outside yourself. You are no longer their prisoner. But perhaps the deepest shift comes not from technique but from perspective. Overthinking is rooted in the illusion that certainty will bring safety. But safety is not found in knowing every answer. True safety arises from trust. Trust in your own resilience. Trust in the impermanence of all things. Trust in the quiet strength of the present. Look back at your life. How many challenges did you face that seemed unbearable at the time, yet somehow you survived? How many storms came and went, leaving you stronger than before? That strength is proof. You do not need to think your way through every possibility. You already carry within you the power to face whatever comes. Imagine standing once more at the edge of the Grand Canyon under the stars. The silence is profound, so deep it almost hums. You look up and see the vastness of the sky, stars spread out like diamonds across the dark. For a moment, your mind quiets. The questions, the doubts, the endless rehearsals, none of them matter here. You are reminded that you are part of something vast, mysterious, and beautiful. And in that vastness, you realize you don't need to control the sky to trust its beauty. You don't need to solve every tomorrow to rest in today. This is the gift of stillness. This is the freedom that waits beyond the restless mind. And it begins the moment you dare to step back, breathe, and let go of the need to hold everything at once. So I ask you now, as a friend on this path, what thought is weighing on you tonight? What cloud are you clutching so tightly that you cannot see the stars? And what would happen if, just for a breath, you let it drift away? Perhaps you would discover what was always there, waiting patiently beneath the storm, the clear sky of peace, vast, open, and free. Overthinking often disguises itself as care. We tell ourselves, if I don't think through every possibility, I will be careless. I might hurt someone. I might fail. And so we keep spinning the wheel of thought, believing that the noise in our head is a form of love or responsibility. But pause for a moment. If someone you loved was drowning, would you stand on the shore calculating angles of rescue? Or would you dive in and act with courage? Overthinking paralyzes us. It steals the very strength we need to care for others and ourselves. True care arises not from fear but from presence. In workplaces across the world, offices in Manhattan skyscrapers, tech hubs in Silicon Valley, hospitals in Chicago, millions sit at desks with minds consumed by spirals of thought. They replay conversations with their bosses. They rehearse presentations 100 times in their minds. They agonize over mistakes that may not even exist. The result? Burnout. Creativity is smothered. Relationships grow cold. Life turns into an endless rehearsal where the real performance never begins. And yet, beneath all this noise, there is always a whisper. It doesn't have to be this way. The Buddha spoke of the monkey mind, a mind that leaps restlessly from one thought to another. But Buddhism does not condemn thought itself. The mind is not an enemy. Thoughts are simply clouds drifting through the sky of awareness. The trouble begins when we grab the clouds, pile them together, and create storms that were never there. The practice, then, is not to fight thought but to stop clutching it, to allow each thought to rise and pass just as a cloud crosses the horizon. Let us imagine another scene. You are hiking in the mountains of Colorado. The trail is steep, the air thin, your backpack heavy. Halfway up, you stop, realizing that much of the weight you carry is unnecessary. Extra gear you will never use, food you do not need. You begin to take things out, setting them gently by the trail. Each item removed makes you lighter, freer, more able to continue the climb. This is what letting go of overthinking feels like. Every unnecessary thought you release is another pound lifted from your shoulders. Suddenly, you are not trapped by the weight of the mind. You are carried by the strength of simplicity. So how can we practice letting go in daily life? Beyond breathing and journaling, there are mindful activities that anchor us to the present. Washing dishes, walking barefoot on grass, sipping a cup of tea slowly. These small acts are powerful when done with awareness. Each one reminds the restless mind that life happens now, not in the endless calculations of tomorrow. The key is to return again and again, patiently, like bringing a wandering child back home. Another practice is what I call the compassionate pause. When you notice your thoughts spiraling, place a hand over your heart and simply say, "It's okay. You don't need to solve everything right now." Feel the warmth of your hand, the rise and fall of your chest. This small gesture creates a bridge between mind and body, between worry and compassion. Over time, the mind learns that it does not have to work alone. The heart is here to guide it too. But what about those who say, "I can't stop. My thoughts are too strong"? To them I say, even the wildest storm passes. No storm has ever lasted forever. If you doubt this, look to the seasons. Winter yields to spring. Night yields to dawn. Every storm of thought, too, has its ending. Trust the rhythm of life. Trust that even the heaviest mind can find its way back to stillness. Science, once skeptical of ancient practices, now confirms their wisdom. Neuroscientists have discovered that mindfulness literally reshapes the brain. Areas connected to stress shrink, while areas tied to compassion and clarity grow stronger. This means every time you practice stillness, you are not just calming the moment, you are rewiring the very architecture of your being. Imagine that. Each breath, each pause, each letting go is physically transforming you into someone freer, lighter, and more alive. There is a deeper truth hidden in all this. Overthinking is not only about fear of the future, it is about fear of the present. We run from the now because it feels too simple, too vulnerable. We believe that by projecting into the future we can avoid the rawness of being here. But the irony is this: all the peace we seek lies in the present. By running from it, we are running from the only place peace can ever exist. Consider the words of the Buddha. Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment. This is not a denial of planning, nor an invitation to neglect responsibility. It is a reminder that the quality of every action, every choice, every life is determined by how fully we inhabit the moment we are in. Overthinking distracts us, mindfulness roots us. One leads to exhaustion, the other to peace. Picture this: a woman standing at the rim of the Grand Canyon at sunset. Her phone is off. She breathes in the crisp air, watches the colors shift from gold to crimson to deep purple. For the first time in weeks, her mind quiets. She feels small yet safe, insignificant yet deeply connected. She realizes she does not need to know what tomorrow holds, for this moment is enough. That is the gift waiting for each of us when we choose to release the grip of overthinking. And so, dear listener, I return to you with a question. How much longer will you carry the burden of thoughts that do not serve you? How many nights will you surrender to storms that were never real? Imagine what your life would feel like if you trusted the present, if you dared to breathe into the now without the need to control every detail. You might discover that peace was never lost. It was only hidden beneath the restless waves of your mind. The restless mind can be tamed. The weight of overthinking can be set down. You do not need to know everything to feel safe. You only need to breathe here in this moment, alive and awake. The clouds will drift. The sky will clear. And in that vast silence, you will remember who you truly are, free, serene, and at peace. Part 2. Reclaiming the voice within transforming negative self-talk. There is a voice that follows us everywhere. It does not sleep when we sleep. It does not rest when we rest. Sometimes it whispers quietly. Sometimes it shouts with merciless clarity. You know the voice I mean, the one that says, "You're not good enough. You will fail. Why even bother?" This is not the voice of truth nor the voice of wisdom. It is the voice of negative self-talk, the silent enemy that erodes confidence, drains courage, and chains the spirit long before the world ever has a chance to. If an enemy hurled insults at you on the street, you might defend yourself. If a stranger belittled your worth, you could walk away. But when the cruelty comes from inside, from your own mind, it pierces deeper than any external wound. And because it wears the mask of familiarity, we often mistake it for truth. Day by day, word by word, this voice builds an invisible prison. The bars are shame, the locks are self-doubt, and the sentence is a life lived smaller than what you were born to live. Yet Buddhism teaches us something liberating. Words, whether spoken aloud or whispered in the mind, are like arrows. A poisoned arrow can wound another person, but a poisoned arrow shot into your own heart can destroy you. The Buddha spoke of right speech, and while many understand this as kindness toward others, the deeper teaching is to also speak kindly to oneself. Right speech begins within. If you cannot speak compassion to your own heart, how can your words truly heal another? Imagine standing on the cliffs of Big Sur, the ocean crashing below. A storm has passed and the waves still rage. You stand there feeling the power of the sea, realizing that if you listened only to the roar of the waves, you might think the world was chaos. But above, the sky is clearing, the horizon is steady. Negative self-talk is like those stormy waves. It makes noise. It demands your attention. It convinces you that chaos is all there is. But step back, look higher, and you realize there is always a greater calm waiting beyond the storm. Modern psychology affirms what ancient teachings revealed. The mind cannot easily distinguish between truth and repeated suggestion. If you tell yourself, "I'm worthless," often enough, the brain records it as fact. Your behavior then bends to this false belief, and life begins to shrink. But here lies the miracle. The same is true for kindness. When you plant affirmations of worth, your brain records them too, and slowly compassion reshapes the narrative of your life. So how do we reclaim the voice within? The first step is awareness. The next time you hear that cruel whisper, pause. Do not fight it, do not argue, simply recognize it. Name it for what it is, the negative voice. By naming it, you separate yourself from it. You are not the voice. You are the awareness hearing the voice. This shift is subtle, but it is freedom. The second step is replacement. When the voice says, "You will fail," respond with, "I am learning and every step is progress." When it sneers, "You are not enough," answer with, "I am growing each day." These are not empty affirmations. They are grounded truths. A tree does not reach the sky in a single season, yet every ring in its trunk testifies to growth. So too with you, each small act of kindness toward yourself is a ring of strength added to your being. The The third step is compassion practice. In Buddhism, we call it metta or loving-kindness meditation. Sit quietly and repeat, "May I be safe, may I be healthy, may I be peaceful, may I be free." At first, these words may feel awkward, even unbelievable, but over time, like drops of water nourishing a seed, they soften the soil of self-criticism and allow compassion to take root. Think of a seed buried in the earth. If you pour acid on it daily, can it grow? If you scorch it with fire, can it survive? Yet if you water it gently, if you give it light, it cannot help but rise. Your potential is that seed. Negative self-talk is the acid. Compassion is the water. The choice of what you pour into your heart belongs to you. Here is a practice for tonight. Stand before a mirror and simply say, "Thank you for giving your best today. Tomorrow you will continue to grow." At first, your reflection may feel like a stranger, but if you repeat this each night for 21 days, something shifts. The face staring back at you softens, the eyes carry more light, and you begin to recognize the friend you always longed for yourself. Picture this moment, a traveler wandering through the desert, parched and weary. On their back, a heavy sack filled not with water but with stones engraved with words like unworthy, failure, hopeless. Each step is agony, but imagine if they opened the sack, placed the stones down one by one, and discovered beneath the weight a hidden spring of fresh water. That spring is your true self, your unshakable worth. It has always been there. You need only set down the stones of self-criticism to drink from it. And so I ask you now, what words are you allowing to shape your life? If you silence the cruel voice inside, if you chose to speak to yourself as you would to a dear friend, how different would your days become? Negative self-talk does not vanish overnight, but each time you replace cruelty with kindness, you loosen another chain. Step by step, word by word, you return to the whole and worthy being you have always been. The human mind is a remarkable storyteller. It can take a single mistake, an awkward sentence spoken at a meeting, a project delayed, a missed opportunity, and weave it into a grand narrative of unworthiness. See, the voice hisses, "You always fail, you never measure up, everyone else is better." And soon that single mistake becomes the lens through which we view our entire life. But pause for a moment. Imagine you are standing in Yosemite Valley at dawn, the granite walls glowing pink as the first light of day spills across the landscape. If you focus only on one shadowy corner, you might believe the whole valley is dark. Yet lift your eyes, and you see beauty stretching in every direction. Negative self-talk is that narrow focus. It convinces us that one dark corner defines the whole. But your life, like the valley, is vast, layered, filled with light waiting to be seen. Where does this voice come from? Sometimes it is inherited. Harsh words spoken by parents or teachers echo in the mind long after childhood ends. Sometimes it is born of comparison, fed by a culture that measures worth in achievements, appearances, and numbers. And sometimes it is self-created, a misguided attempt to motivate ourselves through criticism. We think, if I'm hard on myself, I'll improve. But in truth, harshness weakens, while kindness strengthens. No flower blooms under a hammer. The tragedy is not only the suffering caused by this voice, but the potential it steals. How many dreams have been silenced because someone believed the whisper that said, "You're not capable"? How many relationships have withered because the voice insisted, "You're not lovable"? How many lives have remained half-lived because the voice declared, "Don't even try"? Yet there is hope, and it begins with awareness. The next time you hear the inner critic, imagine it as a character. Give it a name, a shape, see it clearly. Perhaps it is a crow perched on your shoulder cawing insults. Perhaps it is an old tape recorder playing the same tired lines again and again. When you see it for what it is, you remember, this is not you. It is only a voice. You are the one listening, and once you know that, you can choose not to obey. From awareness, we move to transformation. Begin to consciously replace the poison with medicine. Instead of "I always fail," say, "I am learning, and learning means progress." Instead of "I'm not good enough," say, "I am growing every day." These replacements are not empty affirmations, they are grounded truths. Growth takes time, progress is made of small steps, By speaking truth with kindness, you reshape the path your mind walks. But words alone are not enough. They must be embodied. Practice acts of compassion toward yourself. Rest when you are tired. Nourish your body with good food. Allow yourself moments of joy without guilt. Each act is a message to the inner voice. I am worthy of care. Over time, these actions become louder than the critic. Let us not forget the ancient practice of metta meditation. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and repeat, may I be safe, may I be healthy, may I live with ease, may I be free. At first it feels forced. The critic laughs, but continue. Day after day, the words soften the hard soil of self-judgment. Slowly, you feel a warmth spreading from within, a tenderness toward yourself that once seemed impossible. That tenderness is the antidote to the poison. Imagine now a different picture. You are walking along the Oregon coast at low tide. The beach stretches wide, the sky endless. You notice broken shells scattered in the sand. Some are chipped, some cracked, some worn smooth by waves. Yet each glimmers in its own way, catching the light. You realize that their imperfections are part of their beauty, and suddenly you see yourself in those shells, not broken, not worthless, but uniquely shaped by the tides of life. The voice that called you flawed was blind to this truth. Your cracks are where the light enters. Science affirms this too. Studies show that practicing self-compassion increases resilience, lowers stress, and even strengthens the immune system. Athletes who speak kindly to themselves recover faster from mistakes. Students who practice self-compassion persevere longer in challenges. Leaders who cultivate kindness within lead with greater wisdom. Far from making us weak, self-compassion makes us strong. So tonight, when the negative voice rises, remember this: you have a choice. You can accept its cruel judgment, or you can respond with compassion. You can continue carrying the heavy sack of insults, or you can lay them down, one by one, until your hands are free to embrace life. And here is the most beautiful part. As you heal your own voice, you naturally begin to heal the voices of others. A kind word to yourself spills over into kind words to a friend, to a partner, to a stranger. By transforming the way you speak within, you change the way you speak without. And slowly, the world itself becomes softer, more compassionate, more alive with hope. So I ask you, what is the voice you want guiding your days? The voice of cruelty, chaining you to shame, or the voice of compassion, lifting you toward freedom? Remember this truth: you are not the critic. You are the sky. The voice is only a passing cloud, and the sky, vast and serene, has always been yours. The cruelest part of negative self-talk is that it often pretends to be helpful. It disguises itself as discipline, as if tearing yourself down will somehow make you stronger. Don't get soft, it sneers. If I push harder, maybe I'll finally improve. But harshness does not create resilience, it creates fear. It silences creativity. It turns life into a battlefield where you are both the soldier and the enemy. Imagine a child learning to walk. They stumble, fall, then try again. If each time they fell you shouted, "You're pathetic, you'll never walk," how long would they continue? But if you encouraged them, if you clapped and smiled each time they took a step, they would keep going until walking became natural. You too are still learning, still growing. So why would you treat yourself with less kindness than you would a child? The Buddha once said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." These words are not a gentle suggestion. They are a call to awaken to your true worth. The path of compassion does not end at the edge of your skin. It begins there. Think of the countless opportunities lost because of negative self-talk. The job never applied for, the book never written, the friendship never pursued. Each time the voice whispers, "You are not enough." But let us be clear, it is not the world holding you back. It is not fate or destiny. It is the prison built by your own thoughts. And prisons of thought can be dismantled, brick by brick, word by word. One way to loosen the grip of the inner critic is through what I call reframing the record. For many, the negative voice repeats the same phrases like a broken record. I always mess up. I'll never change. Instead of letting it play on loop, reframe it. Take the sentence, flip it, and re-record. I always mess up becomes I sometimes stumble, but I am learning. I'll never change becomes I am already changing slowly but surely. It may feel awkward at first, but repetition is powerful. Just as criticism carved deep grooves in the record of your mind, kindness can carve new tracks. Another practice is radical honesty with yourself. Write down the harsh phrases you hear most often. See them on paper. Then ask, is this fact or assumption? 90% of the time, you'll realize these are stories, not truths. A single mistake does not mean you always fail. A single rejection does not mean you are unlovable. The mind loves absolutes, but life is never absolute. By questioning the voice, you weaken its authority. Let us turn to an image. Picture a glass of water with a handful of salt poured in. The water tastes bitter, but pour the same salt into a vast lake and the water remains fresh. The harsh words of the inner critic are like salt. If your heart is small, each word poisons you. But if your heart expands with compassion, the words lose their power. The key is not to remove every grain of salt, but to grow the lake. Each act of self-kindness expands your capacity until criticism dissolves in the vastness of your compassion. Some fear that if they become too gentle with themselves, they will lose ambition, they will settle for mediocrity. But look closely. Does cruelty truly make you thrive, or does it keep you paralyzed, afraid to try? True growth does not come from fear, it comes from love. When you are kind to yourself, you become bold enough to risk, to dream, to fail, and to rise again. Compassion fuels courage. Cruelty fuels paralysis. Imagine climbing Half Dome in Yosemite. The path is steep, your muscles ache. If with each step you shout at yourself, weak, useless, you will soon collapse. But if you breathe deeply and whisper, steady, strong, one more step, you will find strength you didn't know you had. The climb is the same, the voice makes all the difference. Science agrees. Research shows that people who practice self-compassion are more motivated, not less. They set higher goals, persevere longer, and recover faster from setbacks. Far from weakening ambition, kindness sharpens it. Because when failure comes, as it always does, you do not collapse. You rise again, supported by your own compassion. Another way to reclaim the inner voice is to imagine how you would speak to a beloved friend. If they failed, would you call them worthless? If they doubted themselves, would you say they had no hope? No. You would remind them of their strengths, encourage them to keep going, remind them that growth is slow but steady. So why not speak to yourself in the same way? Write a letter to yourself as if you were that friend. Offer words of encouragement. You may be surprised at the tenderness you are capable of giving to yourself. Let us also consider silence. Sometimes the greatest kindness is not to replace the voice, but to quiet it. In meditation, sit and notice the chatter. Let it rise. Let it fall. Do not fight it. Do not obey it. Simply witness. With time, you realize the voice is not constant. It comes and goes like the wind. And behind it, beneath it, there is a silence that is vast, steady, and unshaken. That silence is your true nature. The voice is only weather passing through. Picture now a night in the desert of Arizona. The air is cool, the stars endless. You lie on your back, gazing upward. The silence around you is profound. Your thoughts drift in and out, but in the vastness of the desert, they seem small, almost laughable. In that silence, you realize the negative voice was never who you are. You are the awareness beneath it. You are the sky, not the storm. As you begin to reclaim your voice, something extraordinary happens. You start to live differently. Choices that once seemed impossible become possible. Relationships deepen because you are no longer afraid to be seen. Dreams long buried resurface because you finally trust yourself enough to pursue them. Step by step, your life transforms, not because the world changed, but because the voice guiding you changed. And so I leave you with this reflection. Tonight, when the critic rises, pause, place a hand on your heart. Whisper softly, I am enough, I am growing, I am worthy of love. Say it not as a command, but as a blessing. Feel the warmth of your own palm, the truth of your own breath. Know that in this moment you are already whole. The negative voice will return, it always does, but each time you choose compassion, you loosen its grip. And one day you will realize it no longer rules you. The voice that once imprisoned you has been replaced by a new voice, a kinder voice, the voice of your true self. You are not the critic, you never were. You are the one who hears it, the one who can choose otherwise, the one who can speak love where once there was cruelty. That power has always been yours. And when you reclaim it, you do not just free your mind, you free your life. Part 3. Fear of failure from shackles to stepping stones. Failure. Even the sound of the word can stir unease in the heart. For many, it is a shadow that follows them wherever they go, a shadow so large that it often prevents them from moving forward at all. How many dreams have been abandoned, not because they were impossible, but because the fear of failure felt unbearable? How many lives have remained untouched by possibility, not because the door was locked, but because the hand never dared to turn the handle? Fear of failure is one of the most silent thieves of human potential. It whispers, "Don't try because you might fall. Don't risk because others might laugh. Don't dream because disappointment hurts too much." And so, in an effort to avoid the sting of failure, we surrender the very possibility of success. It is a paradox that chains millions of lives. In trying not to lose, we lose everything that makes life worth living. But let us look deeper. What is failure really? In Buddhism, there is the teaching of impermanence, anicca. All things arise and all things pass away. Success passes, failure passes. Neither is fixed, neither defines who we are. To stumble is not to be broken, it is to be human. To fail is not the end, it is the beginning of wisdom. Yet fear blinds us to this truth. Fear makes failure seem eternal, as though one fall is a life sentence. Imagine standing on a mountain trail in the Rockies. Ahead lies a path you've always wanted to explore. The view promises to be breathtaking. Yet the trail is steep and your mind begins to worry. What if I slip? What if I cannot make it to the top? What if I embarrass myself in front of others? The fear becomes so strong that you never even take the first step. And so the beauty of the view, the fresh air of the summit, the sense of accomplishment, all are lost, not because the climb was impossible, but because fear of failure kept you rooted in place. The Buddha offered this wisdom. Failure is not the enemy, it is simply part of the path. Every enlightened being, every great teacher, every human who has ever achieved anything of value has failed countless times, but they did not allow failure to define them. They used it as a stepping stone. Like stones across a river, each failure is one step closer to the other shore. Without the stones, there would be no crossing. Think of the baby learning to walk. They fall again and again, yet each fall is not proof of weakness but proof of progress. Each stumble strengthens muscles, sharpens balance, builds resilience. If the child gave up after the first fall, humanity would never walk. And yet, as adults, we forget this truth. We stumble once and declare, "I was not meant for this." But failure is not a verdict. It is a lesson, an invitation to rise again with greater wisdom. There are 4 ways to transform fear of failure into freedom. The first is to shift perspective. See failure not as evidence of inadequacy but as a training ground. Each attempt, each fall is like lifting the weights of resilience. You cannot grow strong without resistance. If you never fail, it means you never dared to step beyond your comfort zone. The second is to practice right effort, as the Buddha taught. Value lies not in outcomes but in the sincerity of effort. Your task is to sow seeds, to nurture them with care, and to trust that when conditions are right, they will bloom. Fear of failure obsesses over the fruit. Wisdom focuses on the planting. When you honor effort, fear loses its grip because even failure becomes meaningful. The third is mindfulness. When fear rises, it spins stories. What if I fall? What if I am humiliated? Pause, take a breath, say, "This is just a thought, not reality, just a passing cloud." By observing fear instead of becoming fear, you reclaim your power. Fear shrinks when exposed to awareness. The fourth is compassion. Many fear failure not because of the fall itself, but because they believe they will never forgive themselves if they do. So be kind. If you stumble, say, "It's okay. I was brave enough to try." Treat yourself as you would a dear friend. The softer you are with yourself, the stronger you become. Picture this. Someone standing at the edge of a cliff, their hands tied with a rope labeled fear of failure. The rope feels heavy, binding, suffocating. But when they finally cut it, they realize what lies ahead is not a deadly fall, but an open path stretching toward the horizon. The rope was the prison, not the world. Failure, then, is not the enemy. Fear is. Failure teaches, strengthens, guides. Fear suffocates, paralyzes, imprisons. So let us ask, if you were no longer afraid to fail, what would you dare to do? What dream would you chase? What risk would you take? Remember, the only true failure is never to try at all. Because in the end, every stumble is a step, every fall is a lesson, every scar is a story of courage. And when you look back, you will not remember the times you stayed safe, unscathed, and hidden. You will remember the times you tried, even when fear trembled in your chest. Those moments, not the ones of silence and hesitation, are what make a life fully lived. So step forward. Stumble if you must. Fall and rise again. Turn the shackles of fear into the stepping stones of wisdom. And discover the truth that has always been waiting for you. Failure is not the end, it is the path. Failure is not just an external event, it is also an inner experience. Two people can face the same stumble, yet their response determines the shape of their lives. One sees failure as a mirror reflecting shame, proof of inadequacy. The other sees it as a lantern, illuminating the path forward. The event is the same, but the meaning changes everything. And meaning, unlike events, is something we have the power to choose. Consider Thomas Edison, who famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." His words are often quoted lightly, but beneath them lies profound wisdom. Edison's failures were not chains, they were stepping stones. Each misstep brought him closer to the invention that would illuminate the world. What if he had stopped after the first, or the 100th, or the 1,000th? The light we now take for granted might never have been born. Buddhism reminds us of anatta, the teaching of no fixed self. We are not defined by a single event, not by a single success, nor by a single failure. We are rivers, always flowing, always changing. To fear failure is to forget our fluidity. To cling to an identity of "I must never fall" is to build walls around a river and demand it stay still. But rivers are meant to move, to stumble over rocks, to carve valleys through persistence. In this movement, beauty is created. Let us imagine again, you are standing before a door of opportunity. Behind it lies something your heart has long desired. Perhaps a new career, a new relationship, a creative pursuit you've hidden in your soul. Your hand reaches for the handle, but the voice of fear whispers, "What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough?" And so you pull back. The door remains closed, not because it was locked, but because you turned away. That door could have led you to growth, joy, fulfillment. But fear convinced you it was safer to stay where you are. And so life becomes a hallway of unopened doors. How many people reach the end of their days regretting not the failures they faced, but the chances they never took? Research with people nearing death shows that the deepest regrets are rarely about mistakes. They are about inaction. I wish I had tried. I wish I had dared. I wish I had spoken. Fear of failure often masquerades as wisdom, but in the end, it is cowardice disguised. True wisdom is daring to live even if it means falling. So how do we loosen the grip of this fear? Let us return to the 4 practices. First, perspective. Failure is training, not punishment. Athletes know this well. A runner trips, but the stumble strengthens their legs. A musician misses notes, but the error deepens their practice. A monk falters in meditation, but the lapse teaches patience. Each failure is not the end of the path, it is the path itself. Second, right effort. The Buddha taught that the value of life lies not in controlling results, but in cultivating intention and effort. You plant seeds with sincerity. Some grow, some do not, but the act of planting is noble. Imagine a farmer in the fields of Vermont. They scatter seeds across the earth, tend the soil, and wait. They do not command the rain nor control the sun, yet they trust that when conditions align, harvest will come. Fear of failure demands instant fruit. Wisdom honors the planting. Third, mindfulness. When the mind whispers, "What if I fail?" Pause, take a breath, observe the thought without judgment. Recognize it as just that, a thought, not reality. Picture it as a leaf drifting down a stream. You need not chase it nor fight it. Just watch as it drifts away. The more you practice, the more you realize thoughts are not truth. They are weather in the sky of the mind. Fear dissolves when seen clearly. Fourth, compassion. Be gentle with yourself when you stumble. Failure stings most when coupled with self-condemnation. But when you meet your own mistakes with kindness, they lose their power to define you. Say to yourself, "It's okay. I tried. That is enough." This softness is not weakness. It is strength. The softer the ground, the safer the fall. Compassion turns the ground of your heart into a place where you can fall and rise again. Let us illustrate with a story. A monk once attempted to build a meditation hall. Each day he carried bricks, laying them carefully. Yet when the hall was nearly finished, he noticed that 2 bricks were crooked. He stared at them for days, ashamed. Visitors came and praised the hall, but the monk could only point to the crooked bricks, saying, "Look at my failure." One day a guest said, "Yes, the bricks are crooked, but look at the hundreds of straight ones. This hall is beautiful." The monk realized then that his mind had exaggerated the flaw until it eclipsed the whole. Fear of failure does the same. It blinds us to the larger truth. One mistake does not erase all that is strong and good. Picture again the person at the edge of the cliff, tied by the rope of fear. When they finally cut it, they realize the ground ahead is not a drop into ruin, but a path leading to sunrise. The rope was the prison, not the world. So I ask you now, if failure no longer frightened you, what would you do? What dream would you chase? What leap would you take? Imagine for a moment that every failure ahead was not a pit but a stepping stone. Where would those stones carry you? Across rivers of doubt, into forests of discovery, up mountains of growth. Every stone, even the ones that cut your feet, becomes part of the journey. Failure cannot be avoided, but fear of failure can be overcome. Each time you step forward despite trembling hands, you prove something profound. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of it. And in those moments, you are free. Remember this truth: the greatest failure is not falling. The greatest failure is never daring to rise. So step forward, dear friend. Risk, stumble, learn. Let the shackles fall away. Transform them into stones that pave the way to your becoming. For when you look back, you will see that failure was never your enemy. It was your teacher, your sculptor, your guide. And without it, you would never have discovered the strength that was always within you. Part 4. The silent wall of self-doubt. There is a particular kind of suffering that does not roar like anger or sting like grief. It is quieter, subtler, and far more persistent. It is the soft voice that whispers at the edge of every opportunity, "Am I really good enough?" Unlike fear of failure, which shouts of possible humiliation, self-doubt creeps in like a shadow, convincing you not even to try. And while fear of failure may stop you once or twice, self-doubt builds itself brick by brick, until before you know it, you are standing before a wall, solid, tall, and seemingly impossible to climb. This is the silent wall of self-doubt, and it blocks countless lives from ever reaching their full potential. Imagine a door before you. Behind it lies a chance, a new job, a creative project, a relationship, a calling. Your heart wants to turn the handle, but before your hand reaches forward, a voice rises. You are not ready. You are not capable. Others are stronger, smarter, more deserving. And so you retreat. The door remains closed, not because you lack the ability to open it, but because you locked yourself out with the key of doubt. Buddhism names this hindrance vicikika, doubt, one of the 5 hindrances that prevent the mind from entering clarity and wisdom. It is not only doubt of the teachings, but doubt of oneself, of one's own capacity to walk the path. A person may sit in meditation but think, "I will never reach stillness. I will never understand." And so they stop before the path has even begun. Doubt is not a wall built by reality. It is a wall built by belief. Consider how self-doubt disguises itself as humility. You tell yourself, "I don't want to be arrogant. I just want to be realistic. But realism is not the same as paralysis. Realism sees difficulty and acts anyway. Doubt sees difficulty and gives up before starting. There is wisdom in humility, but there is bondage in self-doubt. The difference is whether you see challenges as reasons to try or as excuses to hide. Think of the redwood forests in California. Each tree towers upward, hundreds of feet into the air, but they began as tiny seeds. Imagine if the seed thought, "I am too small. I could never become a tree. I will stay buried in the soil." The forest would never exist. Growth requires the courage to trust the process, to believe that what begins as small can become magnificent. Where does self-doubt come from? Often its roots lie in the past. A harsh word from a parent, a failure in school, a careless insult from someone you trusted. These moments, small as they seem, sink deep. Over time, they repeat inside the mind until they become identity. I am not enough. But identity is not fixed. The Buddha taught that self is like a flame, constantly changing, never bound to one shape. You are not the child who was criticized, nor the student who stumbled. You are the ever-changing river, not the stone thrown into it. So how do we dismantle the silent wall? The first step is to trace the roots. Write down the memories that fuel your doubt. See them clearly. When did you first begin to believe you were not enough? Who spoke those words? And ask yourself, do they still hold power today, or are they just echoes from a time long gone? Awareness is the hammer that cracks the first bricks. The second step is to build confidence through small victories. Don't wait until you feel completely ready to attempt something monumental. Begin with small acts. Finish one task today, exercise for 10 minutes, read a chapter of a book. Each small victory is a brick removed from the wall, replaced by a stone in the bridge of trust. Slowly, the bridge carries you across the chasm of doubt. The third step is mindfulness. When the voice of doubt whispers, "I can't," pause. Ask yourself, is this truth or just a thought? 90% of self-doubt is assumption, not reality. And when you see it clearly, it dissolves like mist in the morning sun. The fourth step is compassion. Place your hand over your heart and say, "May I be safe. May I be strong. May I move forward." When you treat yourself with kindness, confidence does not need to roar. It grows gently, nourished by compassion. Picture a person standing before a mirror, head bowed in the shadow of self-doubt. Slowly, they lift their eyes. Light breaks through. A small smile appears. It is not arrogance. It is quiet strength born of self-kindness. Science echoes this wisdom. Studies show that confidence does not precede action, it follows it. Those who act despite doubt build confidence over time, while those who wait for confidence before acting often remain waiting forever. In other words, belief in yourself is not the ticket to the journey, it is the gift you receive along the way. So let me ask you, what would your life look like if you trusted yourself just 10% more today? Not 100%, not complete certainty, just 10% more. Perhaps you would send that application. Perhaps you would speak up in the meeting. Perhaps you would share the poem you've kept hidden for years. Each act, however small, is a declaration. I will not be ruled by doubt. Remember, the wall of self-doubt is not solid stone. It is bricks you place there, one by one, over years of believing lies. And only you have the power to take them down, one brick at a time. With each act of trust, with each moment of compassion, with each step forward, the wall crumbles. And when it falls, you will see something astonishing. There was never anything blocking your way. The horizon was always there, waiting for you to walk toward it. You were always far stronger than you believed. Self-doubt is more dangerous than failure itself, because failure at least carries the seed of growth, while doubt prevents the seed from ever being planted. Failure says, "Try again." Doubt says, "Don't try at all." In this way, doubt is not a single obstacle, it is a thief of entire lifetimes. Picture an artist in Paris, brush in hand, staring at a blank canvas. Inside burns a vision of colors, forms, and light. But before the first stroke is made, the voice arises. What if it's terrible? What if no one understands? What if I'm not truly an artist? The hand hesitates. The brush never touches canvas. The painting remains unborn, not because the artist lacked talent, but because self-doubt stole it before it could exist. How many paintings, books, songs, and inventions have been lost this way, not destroyed by failure but suffocated by doubt? The Buddha understood this hindrance well. Doubt was said to trouble even him during meditation, tempting him to abandon the path. The story goes that as he sat under the Bodhi tree, Mara, the embodiment of illusion, approached and whispered, "Who are you to think you can attain enlightenment? Who do you think you are?" This is the voice of doubt, not the voice of reality but of illusion, and like the Buddha we must learn to recognize Mara when he speaks within us. There is a subtle cruelty in self-doubt. It often pretends to protect us. Don't reach too high, you'll only be hurt. Don't try, you'll only fail. It wraps itself in the clothing of caution, of wisdom. But real wisdom encourages action tempered by awareness. Doubt discourages action altogether. It convinces us that safety lies in silence, in shrinking, and staying small. But what kind of life is that? Safety without growth is not peace, it is slow suffocation. Let us imagine another scene. You are standing on the shore of Lake Tahoe. The water is crystal clear, stretching deep into blues and greens. You long to swim, to feel the cool water against your skin. Yet self-doubt whispers, "You're not a strong swimmer. Others will laugh, stay on the shore." And so you remain standing, watching others dive, splash, and rejoice. The lake remains beautiful, but it is not yours to experience. Self-doubt does not steal the lake, it steals your participation in life. How then do we take down the wall? One powerful way is through evidence. Self-doubt thrives in vagueness. It feeds on phrases like "I always fail" or "I'm never enough." But when you examine your life closely, the evidence tells a different story. You have survived hardships. You have learned skills. You have moments of kindness, resilience, creativity. Keep a journal of victories, no matter how small. Write down each completed task, each moment of courage, each time you surprised yourself. Over time, this becomes a mirror that reflects truth back at you. You are capable, you are resilient, you are growing. Another method is to borrow faith when your own feels too small. Surround yourself with people who see your potential. Share your doubts with a trusted friend, a mentor, a community. Sometimes, when we cannot yet believe in ourselves, we can lean on the belief of others until we are strong enough to carry it on our own. In Buddhism, this is the power of Sangha, the community. Alone, doubt is heavy. Together, it becomes lighter. And then there is action itself. Confidence does not arrive fully formed before the first step. It grows through stepping. The wall crumbles not when you wait for it to fall, but when you dare to climb brick by brick. Apply for the job. Speak in the meeting. Write the first paragraph. Each action proves the voice wrong. Each attempt removes another stone. Self-doubt cannot survive evidence of your own courage. Let us use another image. Imagine standing at Antelope Canyon in Arizona, its sandstone walls twisting and glowing in shades of red and gold. The canyon was carved not by sudden force but by steady, persistent water over thousands of years. Self-doubt tells you that only dramatic leaps count, but the truth is different. Steady persistence, small daily acts can carve even the hardest stone. You don't need to shatter the wall in one blow, you need only chip at it patiently day after day. Eventually, what once seemed impenetrable becomes a passageway. Mindfulness, too, is essential. Notice how doubt speaks. It often uses absolute words, always, never, everyone, no one. These are red flags. Life is rarely absolute. When you hear such words in your inner dialogue, pause and ask, is this really true, or is it a story? By questioning absolutes, you weaken their hold. Compassion adds another dimension. Self-doubt often arises when we hold ourselves to impossible standards. We demand perfection, and anything less becomes proof of inadequacy. But compassion reminds us that perfection is not the goal, growth is. Repeat to yourself, "I am allowed to learn. I am allowed to stumble. I am allowed to begin imperfectly." Each phrase removes another brick, softening the wall into something you can step over. Now picture a person walking in the Mojave Desert at dusk. They carry a heavy backpack filled with stones, each one etched with words. Not smart enough, not strong enough, not worthy. Their steps are slow, burdened, but imagine them stopping one stone at a time, setting it down. With each stone removed, their pace quickens, their breath eases. Finally, free of the weight, they begin to run. This is the journey of dismantling doubt, not instant, not dramatic, but liberating with every step. And so the question comes back to you. What door have you left unopened because of doubt? What dream remains caged because you told yourself you were not enough? And what would happen if you trusted yourself just a little more, 10% more today? You might find that the door opens, the path clears, the wall crumbles, and beyond it lies not humiliation but freedom. Remember this truth. Self-doubt is a wall you built, but it is also a wall you can dismantle. Brick by brick, act by act, breath by breath. On the other side is not a new self waiting to be created, but your truest self waiting to be revealed. And when you finally see beyond the shadow of doubt, you will discover what was always true. You were capable, worthy, and strong all along. Part 5. The heavy backpack of worry. Worry. It is the invisible weight we carry, heavier than any load we lift with our hands. Unlike the weight of physical labor, which leaves the body sore but satisfied, worry gnaws at the spirit, stealing peace hour by hour, day by day. It is like walking through life with a backpack filled not with food or water, but with stones, stones carved with the words, "What if?" Every step becomes harder, not because the road is steep, but because of the burden strapped to your own shoulders. Worry is subtle. It does not shout. It creeps in gently, convincing you that to worry is to care. That endless concern is proof of love or responsibility. Parents worry for their children. Workers worry for their jobs. Lovers worry for their relationships. And while some concern is natural, the line is crossed when worry no longer motivates action but paralyzes the heart. The Buddha taught that worry is a form of mental suffering. The events themselves are not the root of pain. It is the clinging to what is uncertain that causes torment. Think of how often you have worried about something that never happened. The sleepless nights spent imagining disasters, the afternoons distracted by anxious thoughts. Studies show that more than 90% of the things we worry about never come to pass, and even when they do, we usually handle them better than our fears predicted. Worry gives us the illusion of control, but in truth, it steals the only moment we ever truly own, the present. Imagine sitting in a rocking chair on a porch in Savannah. You rock back and forth all day long. At the end of the day, you are exhausted, yet you have gone nowhere. That is worry. It feels like motion, but it brings no progress. It drains energy without moving life forward. So how do we put down this heavy backpack? The first step is to return to the present. When your mind begins to spiral into what if questions, pause, ask yourself, right now, am I safe? Right now, do I have breath, food, shelter? Most often, the answer is yes. By grounding yourself in the present, you see that the storm exists only in the imagination. The second step is to sort your worries. Some belong to the category you can control: your health, your actions, your words. For these, take meaningful steps: eat well, exercise, rest, speak with care. Others belong to the category you cannot control: the weather, the opinions of others, the unfolding of fate. For these, release them. As the Buddha said, if the problem can be solved, why worry? If it cannot be solved, worry is useless. The third step is to practice what I call worry time. Set aside 15 minutes each day to write down every worry, no matter how small. During this time, let your anxieties flow onto the page. But outside those minutes, remind yourself, this can wait until my worry time. You will be surprised at how many worries dissolve before the time arrives. The mind, given boundaries, begins to respect them. The fourth step is to trust impermanence. No storm lasts forever. Every worry, no matter how overwhelming, will pass. Remember that everything changes: the seasons, the tides, the body, the mind. With this truth, we can hold our fears more lightly, knowing that even the heaviest anxiety will eventually fade. Picture a traveler walking along the Appalachian Trail, carrying a huge backpack. Each mile is agony. At last they stop, open the pack, and find it filled not with essentials but with scraps of paper, each scribbled with the words, "What if?" They sigh, set the pack down, and continue walking free. Their steps are lighter, their breath easier. The path has not changed, but they have. Worry robs us not only of peace but of presence. While you worry about the future, you miss the laughter of your children, the warmth of the sun, the taste of your meal. You are alive, yet not living. You are present in body but absent in spirit. What greater tragedy is there than to miss the very life you are worrying about? So I ask you now, what weight are you carrying that does not belong to you? What if have you strapped to your back that is making each step harder? Imagine setting it down just for today. Imagine how much lighter, freer, and more alive you would feel. Worry will never vanish completely. To care about the future is part of being human, but there is a difference between care and obsession. Care leads to wise action. Obsession leads to suffering. The Buddha invites us to walk the middle path, to acknowledge uncertainty without being crushed by it, to prepare for tomorrow while living fully in today. So take a breath, feel your shoulders soften, loosen the straps of that heavy pack, and remember this truth: every minute spent worrying about tomorrow is a minute stolen from the peace of today, and today is the only moment you truly have. Worry thrives on illusion. It whispers to us that by rehearsing every disaster in advance, we will somehow soften the blow when it comes. But in truth, worry makes us suffer twice, once in imagination and once in reality. Sometimes reality never even arrives, and we suffer needlessly for storms that never form. It is like walking under a clear sky with an umbrella always open, waiting for rain that may never fall. Instead of enjoying the sunshine, you live under a shadow of your own making. The Buddha compared worry to grasping a burning coal with the intention of throwing it at another. You are the one burned first. Worry promises control, but in reality, it burns away your peace. Let us step into a modern scene. In the sleepless towers of New York City, thousands of people lie awake at 2 a.m., worrying about meetings, bills, health, relationships. Their bodies are tired, but their minds are sprinting, imagining catastrophes. The irony is that when morning comes, most of the feared disasters never occur. The energy wasted in the night could have been strength for the day. This is the great cost of worry. It steals not only the peace of the present, but also the power to face the future. So what practices can help us put down the backpack? Beyond the ones we've explored, there are many subtle ways. One is mindful breathing paired with gratitude. The next time your mind begins to spiral, pause and name 3 things that are true and good in this moment. I am breathing. I have shelter. I have someone who cares for me. Gratitude shrinks the space where worry grows. It reminds you that while the future is uncertain, the present holds blessings. Another is the practice of symbolic release. Write down your greatest worries on slips of paper. Place them in a box, a jar, or even a fireproof bowl. At the end of each week, burn them, watching the smoke rise into the air. This act does not erase the challenges of life, but it declares, I refuse to let worry rule me. Rituals like this train the mind to release what it clings to. There is also the power of perspective. Step outside at night and look up at the stars. From the vastness of the cosmos, our worries about deadlines, appearances, small disagreements shrink. It is not that they are meaningless, but they are not as heavy as we believe. When you remember your place in the vast web of existence, you can breathe more lightly. Buddhism also offers the reminder of impermanence. Every worry, no matter how sharp, will pass. No feeling, no fear, no situation lasts forever. When we worry, we believe pain will be permanent, but impermanence assures us otherwise. Storms give way to calm. Night gives way to morning. Pain gives way to healing. If you can remember that nothing lasts, you will find courage to endure without drowning in anxious thought. Imagine another picture. A fisherman in Maine rowing out at dawn. Fog covers the sea, and he cannot see far ahead. If he stops and worries about every hidden rock or wave, he will never move. But if he trusts his boat, rows steadily, and adjusts when obstacles appear, he will reach his destination. Worry would have kept him at shore forever. Action guided by trust carries him forward. Science has also begun to echo this wisdom. Research shows that chronic worry disrupts sleep, raises blood pressure, weakens the immune system, and even shortens lifespan. But mindfulness practices, deep breathing, meditation, gratitude, calm the nervous system, lower stress hormones, and restore balance. What Buddhism taught centuries ago is now confirmed by modern science. Peace comes not from controlling life, but from calming the mind. Here is a simple daily ritual to try. Each morning, write down the one thing you are most worried about. Then write down one small action you can take toward it. Do that action, then release the rest. This practice turns worry into fuel for movement rather than paralysis. Over time, you realize that most worries shrink the moment you take even the smallest step. And yet, even with all these practices, worry will return. That is its nature. The point is not to banish it forever, but to relate to it differently. When it arises, smile gently and say, "Ah, my old companion, I see you." By naming it without judgment, you rob it of power. Worry feeds on resistance, but when greeted with awareness, it softens and fades. Let us return to the metaphor of the backpack. Each stone inside is labeled with fears. What if I lose my job? What if my child struggles? What if I get sick? Day after day we carry them. But when we open the pack, we realize many stones are imaginary. They were never real to begin with. Others are real but too heavy for us to carry alone. For those, we ask for help from loved ones, from community, from spiritual practice. And for the ones that truly belong to us, we carry them with mindfulness, one step at a time, never forgetting to rest. So I ask you, what stone are you ready to set down today? Which worry, if released even for an hour, would make your life lighter? Imagine walking without it, your shoulders free, your steps steady. You would discover what was always true. The path is not as heavy as you believed. It was the backpack that weighed you down, not the journey itself. In the end, worry is not love. Worry is not care. Worry is fear disguised as responsibility. True care comes from presence, from action, from trust. True love is not endless anxiety, it is showing up with calm strength. And peace is not the absence of challenges, it is the courage to live fully despite uncertainty. So breathe deeply. Lay the backpack down. Trust the road, trust yourself, trust life. And remember this, every moment you spend worrying about tomorrow is a moment stolen from the peace of today. Do not let worry rob you of the life that is already here, waiting to be lived. Part 6. The Fire of Resentment, Why Grudges Burn You First. Resentment is a fire we believe we are keeping for someone else, when in truth, we are the ones who burn first. Few things corrode the spirit more silently than a grudge. At first, it feels justified. Someone wronged you, betrayed your trust, spoke cruel words, broke promises, left wounds that seem unforgettable. Anger rises like a flame, and you cling to it as if holding onto that fire will protect your dignity, your pride, your sense of justice. But over time, the flame does not stay contained. It spreads inward, filling your own lungs with smoke, choking your joy, dimming your days. The Buddha spoke of hatred as one of the three poisons, dosa, anger that blinds us. To hold on to resentment is to drink poison daily while waiting for the other to fall. Yet how often do we do exactly that? We replay the moment of hurt again and again, reliving the pain long after the wound was given. The body may heal, but the heart remains raw because we refuse to let it rest. Imagine a room you wish to keep clean and bright, but in the corner smolders a small fire. It does not burn the house down, but it fills the air with smoke. Everything you do in that room, eating, resting, talking, becomes clouded. This is what living with resentment feels like. Outwardly, you may smile, work, fulfill your duties, but inside the smoke never clears. The irony is this: the person you resent may not even remember what they did. They may live freely while you remain bound in chains of memory. In this way, resentment is self-imposed imprisonment. The key lies not in changing the past or the offender, but in releasing the fire within your own chest. How do we do this? Forgiveness is often misunderstood. It does not mean condoning the wrong nor pretending the wound never happened. Forgiveness is the decision not to let the wound define your life. It is a declaration of freedom. I choose not to carry this anymore. There are steps to help us reach this freedom. First, see resentment for what it is. Ask yourself, does holding this grudge make me happier, stronger, lighter? The honest answer is almost always no. By recognizing resentment as a burden rather than protection, you take the first step toward release. Second, practice loving-kindness meditation. Begin with yourself. May I be safe, may I be at peace. Extend it to loved ones, to friends, and finally, even to the one who hurt you. May they also find peace. At first, the words may feel like fire on the tongue, but as you repeat them, something softens. The heart, long frozen by anger, begins to thaw. Third, remember impermanence. The person who hurt you is not the same person now as they were then. They too are changing, shaped by ignorance, fear, and their own suffering. To cling to an old image of them is to chain yourself to the past. By seeing their humanity, flawed as it is, you open the door to compassion. Fourth, use symbolic release. Write down your resentments on paper. Every name, every wound, every word that still stings. Then burn the paper, or let it drift away on water. Watch as the smoke rises or the current carries it. This act declares, I will not let this rule me anymore. The memory remains, but the chains begin to loosen. Picture a traveler walking down a desert road carrying a heavy can of gasoline on their back. With every step, drops spill, leaving the ground dangerously flammable. The burden is exhausting, the danger ever present. But when the traveler sets the can down, their steps become light. The road safe. That is the power of release. Science confirms what wisdom has long known. Holding grudges harms not only the spirit but the body. Resentment fuels stress, raises blood pressure, weakens the immune system. People who forgive, on the other hand, show lower anxiety, better sleep, greater well-being. Forgiveness is not only a spiritual act, it is medicine for the body and mind. So I ask you, who are you still holding in the prison of your resentment? And in truth, who is locked inside them or you? What would your life feel like if you put down the fire you've carried for so long? Remember this, forgiveness does not erase the past. It does not make wrong right. It simply says, the past will not chain me any longer. In letting go of hatred, you make space for love, for peace, for new possibilities. The fire cools, the smoke clears, and the heart breathes freely again. Resentment often feels like justice. We tell ourselves that by holding onto our anger, we are making sure the wrong is remembered, that we are somehow balancing the scales. But resentment is not justice, it is bondage. True justice arises from wisdom and compassion, while resentment keeps you chained to the very moment you wish to escape. Think of how many years can be consumed by a single grudge. A friendship ends badly, and 20 years later, the heart still tightens when the person's name is mentioned. A harsh word from a parent echoes across decades, shaping how you see yourself. A betrayal in love leads you to close the door on tenderness long after the betrayer has left your life. This is the power of resentment. It not only holds the past in place, it robs the future of possibility. The Buddha taught, hatred is never appeased by hatred. By non-hatred alone is hatred appeased. This is an eternal law. These words may sound lofty, but their meaning is deeply practical. Hatred cannot heal hatred, it only multiplies it. Resentment does not protect your wound, it keeps it bleeding. Only when we bring compassion to the wound can it begin to close. Consider a story. A monk once carried a woman across a river, though the rule was to avoid physical contact. Hours later, another monk scolded him. How could you break the rule? The first monk smiled and said, I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? This is the nature of resentment. Long after the event has passed, we keep carrying it, burdening ourselves with what should have been set down. There are many ways to soften resentment. One is to remember your own imperfections. Think of times you caused pain unintentionally. Words spoken in anger, decisions made in ignorance, moments of selfishness. When you recall your own missteps, it becomes easier to see that others, too, are shaped by their limitations. This does not excuse their actions, but it humanizes them. And from that humanization, forgiveness becomes possible. Another way is to shift focus from the wound to the lesson. Every hurt carries hidden wisdom. Betrayal can teach discernment. Loss can teach the value of presence. Harsh words can teach the power of kindness. When you find the lesson, the wound transforms from a source of endless bitterness to a teacher on your path. Practical rituals can also help. Some people write letters of forgiveness, not to send but to release. In these letters, they pour out the pain, the anger, the betrayal, and at the end they write, "I release you, I free myself." Then they burn the letter, the smoke rising as a symbol of letting go. Others choose water, writing the name of the offender on a stone and casting it into a river, watching it sink, leaving ripples that fade into stillness. Resentment is also deeply tied to identity. We say, "I am the one who was betrayed, I am the one who was wronged." The wound becomes a badge we wear, a label we cling to. But Buddhism reminds us of impermanence and non-self. We are not fixed identities. We are not forever the betrayed, the abandoned, the insulted. We are ever changing, ever becoming. To cling to the identity of victim is to freeze yourself in time, to deny your own capacity for growth and renewal. Science now confirms what the Dharma has always taught. Resentment floods the body with stress hormones, damages the heart, and weakens immunity. Forgiveness, on the other hand, lowers anxiety, improves health, and extends life. The choice is not only spiritual but profoundly physical. To resent is to poison yourself, to forgive is to heal yourself. Imagine walking through the streets of Kyoto in autumn. The trees blaze with red and gold. Leaves fall, drifting gently to the ground. Nature lets go without struggle. The branches do not cling to every leaf, insisting, "This one wronged me, this one belongs to me." They release, and in that release beauty is born, the forest is renewed. This is the way of life itself. Release leads to renewal. So what would your life feel like if you released the fire? Whose name, if no longer spoken with bitterness, would free your heart? What space would open if the smoke cleared? You might find that beneath the ashes lies a quiet, steady flame of peace that was always waiting. Resentment is heavy. Forgiveness is light. Resentment is fire that burns the hand holding it. Forgiveness is the cool water that soothes the wound. Resentment keeps the past alive in pain. Forgiveness allows the present to breathe. And remember, forgiveness is not for them, it is for you. It is not saying what you did was acceptable. It is saying, "I will not let what you did control me anymore." It is reclaiming your freedom from chains that were never truly yours to carry. So breathe deeply now. Picture the fire in your hands. Feel its heat, its weight, its cost. And then imagine placing it gently on the ground. Watch as it burns itself out, smoke curling into the sky, leaving you free. Your hands are open again, ready to hold love, ready to create, ready to live. In the end, resentment is not the proof of strength. Letting go is. It takes far greater courage to forgive than to cling. And when you forgive, you do not lose, you gain. You gain peace, health, clarity, freedom. You gain the joy of walking lightly, unburdened. So ask yourself now, who am I ready to forgive, not for their sake but for mine? And when you answer, take one step closer to release. For in letting go of resentment, you do not abandon justice, you embrace wisdom. And in releasing the fire, you do not lose warmth, you discover the true fire of the heart, compassion. Part 7. Comparison, looking over the fence and forgetting your own garden. Comparison is a thief dressed in ordinary clothes. It slips into our lives quietly, often without notice. A scroll through social media, a glance at a neighbor's new car, an update from a colleague's promotion, and suddenly our own lives feel inadequate. What was moments ago enough now seems too small, too plain, too ordinary. And so we suffer, not because our garden lacks beauty, but because we are too busy staring over the fence. In the age of endless highlight reels, comparison has become almost automatic. We scroll through pictures of vacations in Santorini, weddings in Central Park, business launches in Silicon Valley. Each image is polished, curated, edited. Yet we hold it against our own raw and unfiltered existence. We compare our behind the scenes to someone else's stage performance, and of course, we come up short. It is no wonder the Buddha described craving and comparison as sources of suffering. They blind us to what we already have, to who we already are. Imagine a gardener tending to a small patch of earth. The soil is rich, seeds are sprouting, and flowers are beginning to bloom. Yet instead of watering them, the gardener spends every day peering over the fence at the neighbor's garden, sighing, envying, lamenting. Meanwhile, their own soil grows dry, the sprouts wither, the blossoms fade. Comparison does this to us. It distracts us from cultivating our own lives, leaving them barren while we admire what we believe others have. But here is the truth hidden beneath illusion. What we see of others is never the whole story. Behind the smiling photo may lie exhaustion. Behind the successful business may lie years of failure and loneliness. Behind the happy family portrait may lie private struggles. We compare our unedited truth to their carefully edited story, and we lose peace because of a lie. The Buddha offered another way, contentment. Contentment is the greatest wealth, he said. To live content does not mean you abandon ambition or settle for stagnation. It means you honor your unique path without measuring it against another's. It means you understand that a rose cannot be compared to a lotus. Each has its own beauty, its own place, its own purpose. So how do we step out of the trap of comparison? First, see its futility. Life is not a race with one finish line. There is no universal measure of worth. You cannot compare a mountain to the sea or the sun to the moon. Each exists in its own brilliance. You too were not born to be anyone else. You were born to be you. Second, practice mudita or sympathetic joy. Instead of letting envy corrode the heart, train it to rejoice in others' happiness. When a friend succeeds, say, "May you continue to flourish." When someone finds love, whisper, "May your love deepen." At first it may feel forced, but with practice, your heart expands. Their joy becomes your joy, doubling the happiness in the world instead of having your own. Third, tend your own garden. Invest in your health, nurture your relationships, cultivate your talents. Take one small step each day to water the soil of your life. With steady care, your garden will bloom in ways unique to you. And when you see the blossoms of your own making, the temptation to compare fades. Fourth, cultivate gratitude. Each evening, write down 3 things you are thankful for: a warm meal, a kind word, a quiet sunset. Gratitude shifts your gaze from what is missing to what is present, from envy to appreciation. And when the heart feels full, comparison loses its grip. Picture 2 gardens side by side. In one, a person leans on the fence, eyes fixed on the neighbor's lush flowers while their own soil cracks with thirst. In the other, someone kneels in the dirt, hands dirty, watering, pruning, planting. Slowly, their garden blooms, not in the same way as the neighbor's, but in its own unique beauty. Which life would you rather live? Comparison never ends. There will always be someone richer, more talented, more admired. But peace is found not in surpassing others, but in embracing your own path. The lotus does not envy the rose does not envy the lotus. Each blooms according to its nature, offering fragrance to the world. So I ask you, where are you looking over the fence in your life? What beauty in your own garden are you neglecting because your eyes are elsewhere? Imagine turning back, kneeling down, placing your hands in your own soil. Imagine the blossoms waiting to appear if only you give them your care. Remember this, you don't need to be anyone else to live a meaningful life. The truest joy comes not from comparison, but from authenticity. When you stop measuring yourself against others, you discover something profound. You were already enough. Comparison is not only a thief of joy, it is also a distortion of reality. When you compare, you are not comparing truth to truth. You are comparing your inner world to another's outer appearance. You know the struggles, doubts, and imperfections of your own heart intimately. Yet when you look at others, you see only the polished fragments they choose to reveal. The result is inevitable. You feel lacking, not because you truly are, but because you are measuring depth against surface, the unfiltered against the curated. Think of social media. A mother posts a picture of her children smiling on a sunny afternoon. What you don't see are the tantrums, the sleepless nights, the exhaustion hidden just outside the frame. A man posts about his business success, yet omits the years of fear, debt, and failure that preceded it. We rarely see the whole garden. We see only the flowers placed in the window box. And yet, we punish ourselves by comparing our whole messy life to someone else's highlight reel. The Buddha taught that envy arises when we mistake illusion for reality. He encouraged us instead to cultivate joy for others, to see their happiness not as a threat to ours, but as proof that joy exists in the world, and therefore is possible for us too. This is mudita, sympathetic joy. It is a radical practice in a culture that thrives on competition. To rejoice in another's fortune is to loosen the grip of envy and to remember that life is not a zero-sum game. Another's light does not dim your own, it helps illuminate the sky. Imagine walking along the rim of the Grand Canyon at sunrise. Thousands stand shoulder to shoulder watching the horizon glow. When the first ray of light spills over, do you resent the person next to you because they are seeing it too? No, you share in the awe together. The beauty of the sunrise does not diminish because others witness it. Joy is like that. It expands when shared. Comparison, however, shrinks us. It tells us that if another is shining, we must be dim. If another is ahead, we must be behind. But there is no single race, no universal clock. Your journey unfolds in its own rhythm, as unique as your breath. To compare is to abandon your path and wander aimlessly on someone else's. So how do we return to our own garden? Begin by noticing the moments you slip into comparison. Catch yourself scrolling, sighing, envying. Pause and ask, is this bringing me closer to peace or pulling me further away? Awareness is the first step. Without it, comparison runs unchecked. With it, you can choose differently. Next, consciously redirect your energy. Each time you notice envy, turn it into appreciation. I am happy they succeeded. At first, this feels forced, even false, but with repetition, it reshapes the heart. Over time, you realize that joy multiplies when shared. Another practice is gratitude. Each night, write 3 things you are thankful for, not grand achievements, but simple blessings. The taste of warm tea, the sound of laughter, the safety of shelter. Gratitude reorients the heart toward abundance. When the heart feels full, comparison loses its grip. And most importantly, invest in your own soil. Instead of gazing outward, turn inward. Ask, what seeds can I plant today? What small action will water my growth? Perhaps it is a few minutes of exercise, a page of writing, a call to a friend. Each small act is a drop of water for your own garden. With consistent care, blossoms will appear, blossoms uniquely yours, blossoms that could never grow in another's soil. Picture again the 2 gardens. In one, the person leans on the fence, sighing at the neighbor's lush roses while their own patch withers. In the other, the gardener kneels, hands dirty, sweat on the brow, tending patiently. Over time, the second garden flourishes, not because it was better soil, but because it was loved. Your life, too, will flourish when you stop envying and start tending. Science also offers its wisdom here. Studies show that constant comparison increases anxiety, depression, and dissatisfaction, while gratitude and self-compassion increase happiness and resilience. When you measure yourself against others, you are less motivated and more discouraged. But when you measure yourself against your past self, asking, am I growing? Am I learning? You cultivate steady, sustainable progress. Buddhism would call this right view, seeing clearly. Right view means recognizing that comparison is a delusion because each person's karma, conditions, and path are unique. You cannot compare rivers that flow in different directions. You cannot compare stars that shine in different parts of the sky. So let me ask you, if all the energy you have spent comparing went into caring for yourself, who might you become? If every sigh of envy became a breath of gratitude, what kind of peace would bloom in your life? If you stopped staring over the fence, what beauty might you discover in your own soil? Comparison is endless. There will always be someone ahead in one area, behind in another. But peace comes when you step off the racetrack entirely, when you realize there was never a race to begin with. Life is not about surpassing others, it is about becoming yourself. So turn back now. Lay your hands in your own soil, water it with gratitude, tend it with care, rejoice in the blossoms of others while nurturing your own. And one day, when your garden blooms in ways you never imagined, you will understand. Joy was never about being better, it was about being true. Part 8. Embracing change from fear to freedom. Change is life's only constant, and yet it is the thing most people fear the most. We cling to the familiar as if it were a lifeboat, even when it is sinking beneath us. We resist change, imagining it to be a thief, when in truth, it is a teacher, a doorway, a liberator. The Buddha taught impermanence, anicca, as one of the central truths of existence. Everything is in flux: your body, your thoughts, your relationships, the seasons, even the stars in the sky. And yet, despite knowing this deep down, the human heart trembles at the thought of change. Why? Because change feels like loss. A new job means leaving the comfort of the old. A new relationship means risking heartbreak. A move to a new city means leaving behind friends and routines. Our instinct is to hold tighter, to grip what we know. But the tighter we hold, the more life slips through our fingers. Imagine clutching a handful of sand. The harder you squeeze, the more escapes. Resisting change exhausts us. We fight against the current of life, struggling to keep things still, forgetting that stillness in this world is an illusion. To live is to move, to transform, to let go of one form and embrace another. The caterpillar cannot remain a caterpillar and also discover the sky. The tree cannot cling to its leaves and also make way for spring's renewal. Consider a young bird standing on the edge of a nest in Yosemite. Its wings tremble, its heart pounds. The nest is safe, familiar. The sky is vast, unknown. The bird hesitates, terrified of falling. But when it finally leaps, when it trusts the air beneath its wings, it discovers the truth. The sky was waiting all along. Change is like that leap. It feels like falling, but it is really flying. The Buddha offered this wisdom. Because all things change, we have the chance to be free from suffering. Imagine if nothing ever changed. The poor would remain poor forever. The broken would stay broken. Grief would never ease. It is because of impermanence that healing is possible, that growth can occur, that transformation can take place. The very thing we fear is the thing that allows us to be free. So how can we embrace change rather than resist it? The first step is to welcome impermanence as a friend rather than fight it as an enemy. Watch a sunset. It disappears every evening, but its beauty lies precisely in its fleetingness. The rose blooms and fades, but its impermanence is what makes it precious. By seeing the transience of life not as tragedy but as truth, we soften our fear. The second step is to begin with small changes. Take a new route to work, try a new meal, shift your routine gently. Each small act reminds you that change is not catastrophe, it is opportunity. Slowly, your heart learns to trust change, to welcome it rather than recoil. The third step is mindfulness. When fear of change arises, pause and ask, what am I truly afraid of? Is it the change itself or the story I am telling about it? More often than not, fear is imagination, not reality. By observing fear with awareness, we see it as a shadow rather than a monster. The fourth step is to focus on opportunity rather than risk. Instead of asking, what if I fail? Ask, what might I learn? What new doors might open? The mind trained on opportunity sees change as a horizon, not a threat. Picture standing at the shore of the Pacific Ocean, waves rolling endlessly. Each wave is different, yet the ocean is whole. Life is like that. Change is not disruption, it is the very rhythm of existence. To resist the waves is to drown. To ride them is to discover freedom. Science also speaks to this truth. Studies show that those who adapt well to change live longer, healthier lives. Flexibility, resilience, openness, these are the traits that lead not only to survival but to flourishing. The mind that welcomes change remains young. The mind that resists grows brittle. So I ask you now, what change are you resisting? What old nest are you clinging to, too afraid to leap? And what might you discover if you dared to spread your wings? Remember this, fear of change is natural, but stepping into change is a choice. And often, on the other side of fear, you do not find a cliff, you find a wide open field waiting for you to plant new seeds of joy. Change is often feared because it exposes our vulnerability. We like to believe that certainty equals safety. We construct routines, build walls, and cling to identities, thinking they will protect us from the chaos of the unknown. But the truth is, life has always been uncertain. No one can predict the next hour, let alone the next year. The more we resist this truth, the more fragile we become. Imagine living in New Orleans, where hurricanes are a part of life. You could spend your days trying to control the weather, shouting at the sky to remain calm. Or you could accept the reality of storms, prepare with wisdom, and trust your ability to adapt when they come. One path leads to exhaustion, the other to resilience. Resisting change is like trying to control the weather. Embracing change is like learning to dance with the wind. The Buddha spoke of dukkha, suffering that arises when we cling to what is impermanent. He did not say impermanence is suffering. He said clinging to what changes brings suffering. The flower blooms, but if you cling to it and demand it never fade, you create your own sorrow. The river flows, but if you demand it stay still, you suffer. Life changes. When we flow with it, we discover freedom. Consider the Japanese art of kintsugi, repairing broken pottery with gold. Instead of hiding the cracks, the artist fills them with precious metal, making the piece more beautiful than before. Change often breaks us in some way, but when we embrace it, when we allow transformation, the cracks become veins of gold. What once seemed like loss becomes a source of new beauty. There is also a profound spiritual truth. Change is the engine of awakening. Without change, no growth is possible. Without impermanence, no suffering could be healed, no ignorance dispelled, no compassion deepened. Every spiritual path rests on the willingness to transform, to let go of what we were so that we can step into what we are becoming. How, then, can we learn to embrace change in daily life? Begin with acceptance rituals. Each morning before rushing into the day, whisper softly to yourself, "Today will bring change. Some I will welcome, some I will resist, but I will meet them all with openness." This simple affirmation conditions the mind to see change not as threat but as truth. Another practice is reflection. At the end of each week, look back and notice the changes that occurred, big or small. Perhaps a problem you feared resolved itself. Perhaps your mood shifted, your body healed, your circumstances shifted slightly. By noticing change, you normalize it, you remind yourself that it has always been with you and that you have always survived it. You can also practice micro-leaps. Once a week, do something intentionally different. Take a new class, cook a new recipe, walk a new path. Each leap, though small, trains the heart to see change as adventure rather than threat. Over time, courage grows. And when larger changes come, illness, loss, transitions, lean into mindfulness. Sit with the fear, breathe with it, name it gently. This is fear. This is uncertainty. Do not run from it. By facing it directly, you discover that fear is not a monster but a shadow. It dissolves when you meet it with awareness. Picture now a man standing at the edge of the ocean in Hawaii. The tide rushes in, soaking his feet. At first he resists, planting his heels, bracing himself. But the waves are stronger and he grows weary. Then he tries something new. Instead of resisting, he moves with the water, stepping forward as it comes, retreating as it goes. Suddenly, he feels a rhythm, almost a dance. What once felt like a battle now feels like flow. This is the art of embracing change, stepping into rhythm rather than resistance. Science offers reassurance here too. Psychologists call it resilience, the capacity to adapt to stress and change. Resilience does not mean you avoid pain. It means you allow pain to shape you without breaking you. Research shows resilient people are not born different. They practice acceptance, gratitude, and flexibility. In other words, they live what Buddhism has taught all along. Life changes, and the way to peace is not to resist but to adapt. So I ask you, what is the change you are resisting right now? A new chapter in your career, a shift in your relationships, a change within yourself. What would happen if you stopped clinging to what was and opened to what is coming? What gift might this change be carrying, hidden beneath the fear? Remember this: fear of change is instinct. Embracing change is choice. And on the other side of fear, you may not find a cliff, you may find wings. Take a breath. Let the old slip from your grasp. Trust the new that is arriving. For life is not meant to be clutched, it is meant to be lived. And when you dare to embrace change, you will discover what was always waiting: freedom. Part 9: Procrastination, the thief of time and dreams. Of all the habits that steal our peace, procrastination is perhaps the most deceptive. It does not arrive with the loud crash of anger or the sharp sting of resentment. It slips in quietly, whispering, "Not now, later, tomorrow." And so we obey. One delay becomes two, two become 10, and suddenly days, months, even years vanish into the abyss of postponement. Procrastination is not the violent thief who breaks the door. It is the silent one who leaves you believing nothing has been taken, until you look back and realize your dreams have been robbed. How many lives have been left half-lived because of procrastination? The book never written, the business never started, the apology never spoken, the love never confessed. Each time the mind found reasons. I need more time, more courage, more preparation. But the truth is, life will never hand you the perfect conditions. Waiting for perfection is waiting for something that never comes. The Buddha taught about right effort, the discipline of steady, mindful action. Seeds of wisdom, compassion, and freedom must be cultivated daily. To say "not today" again and again is to neglect the soil of your life until nothing grows. Procrastination kills not with a sword but with neglect. Picture a desert in Nevada. At first it was fertile, full of streams and blossoms. But over time the streams were not tended, the seeds were not watered, and the land dried. Procrastination does this to the heart. Each moment of avoidance drains the soil until the dream becomes dust. Why do we procrastinate? There are three common roots. The first is fear, fear of failure, fear of imperfection. Better not to begin than to risk stumbling. But in truth, not beginning is the greatest stumble of all. The second is exhaustion. When the body and mind are drained, action feels impossible. We reach for comfort, distractions, entertainment, rather than the effort that nourishes growth. The third is distraction. In today's world, notifications, screens, endless streams of information pull us away from what matters. Hours are consumed in scrolling, while the tasks that could shape our lives remain untouched. So how do we break free? First, shrink the mountain. Procrastination thrives on overwhelm. If you think, "I must write an entire book," the task feels impossible. But if you say, "I will write 1 page today," it becomes doable. Break large tasks into small steps, and each step becomes a stone in the path forward. Second, use the 2-minute rule. If something takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. These small acts build momentum, and momentum weakens the hold of procrastination. Third, create sacred time. Set aside a specific hour for the task you've been avoiding. Treat it as an appointment with your own soul. Guard it as you would a meeting with someone you deeply respect. Fourth, release perfection. Nothing begins flawless. The tree does not sprout fully formed, it grows ring by ring. Allow yourself to start imperfectly, knowing refinement comes with practice. Picture an hourglass. Grain by grain, the sand slips away. If you act, each grain becomes progress. If you do nothing, the sand still falls, but the vessel of your dreams remains empty. Time does not wait. Every day you postpone is a day lost forever. Science affirms this. Psychologists call procrastination self-regulation failure. It is not laziness, but avoidance rooted in emotion. The task feels overwhelming, so the mind seeks relief in distraction. But the relief is temporary, and guilt follows. The cycle repeats until the habit becomes ingrained. The antidote is not harsher discipline, but compassionate awareness, noticing the emotion, soothing it, and then gently returning to action. So let me ask you, what have you been postponing? What dream lies waiting, gathering dust because you keep saying tomorrow? And what if tomorrow never comes? The truth is simple. Procrastination promises comfort but delivers regret. Action may be uncomfortable, but it delivers freedom. Imagine this. A traveler stands before two paths. One is wide, paved, easy. It leads in circles, returning again and again to the same point. This is procrastination, comfort without progress. The other is narrow, steep, demanding, but at the top lies a view that takes the breath away. This is action, effort that leads to fulfillment. Which path will you choose? Remember, you do not need to conquer the mountain in a day. You need only take the first step today, not tomorrow. And with each step, the thief of procrastination loses its hold, and the dream you thought lost begins to come alive. Procrastination feels harmless in the moment. You tell yourself, "I'll do it tomorrow." You scroll a little longer, watch another episode, delay the phone call, put off the project. One day becomes two, two become a week, and a week becomes years. Then one morning you wake and realize the chance is gone, the door is closed, the words unsaid, the dreams untouched, the life unlived. This is why procrastination is not merely a habit, it is a slow erosion of the soul. The Buddha's teaching on mindfulness warns us of this trap. He spoke of the importance of the present moment, the only place life truly exists. To postpone endlessly is to deny the present. To say, "Tomorrow I will live fully," is to miss the truth. Tomorrow never arrives. There is only ever today, this breath, this step. Consider a farmer in the fields of Iowa. Spring arrives, but he delays planting. "Tomorrow," he says. The rains come and go, the soil shifts, and soon the season has passed. No matter how hard he works in autumn, the harvest cannot come, for the seeds were never planted in time. Procrastination is like that. It steals the season of planting, leaving us barren when we long for harvest. Why do we do this to ourselves? Part of the answer lies in fear. If I never start, I never have to face the possibility of failure. If I delay, I can cling to the illusion that success is still possible someday. In this way, procrastination is perfectionism in disguise. We wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect version of ourselves. But perfection never arrives, and the waiting becomes endless. Another reason is overwhelm. Tasks loom like mountains, so we freeze at the base, paralyzed. Yet if we looked closer, we would see that mountains are climbed one step at a time. The summit is not reached by leaping, but by steady walking. Procrastination convinces us that because we cannot leap to the top, we should not start at all. And then there is fatigue. In a culture that glorifies busyness, many are too drained to act on what matters most. We spend our energy on distractions, obligations, endless scrolling, until when the time comes to act on our true dreams, we are empty. Procrastination slips in when our bodies and minds are depleted. So how do we awaken from this quiet theft? One practice is start small, start now. When the task feels impossible, reduce it to the smallest action. If you want to write, begin with one sentence. If you want to exercise, begin with 5 minutes. If you want to meditate, begin with 3 breaths. Action, however small, creates momentum, and momentum shatters procrastination's illusion of immobility. Another practice is time sanctification. Choose a sacred hour each day dedicated to your most important task. Guard it fiercely as if it were an appointment with your highest self. During that hour, silence distractions. Put away devices. Offer the hour as a gift to your future self. Slowly, this practice builds a rhythm, a discipline rooted not in pressure but in devotion. There is also the power of visualization. Picture your life 1 year from now if you continue procrastinating. See the projects unfinished, the dreams untouched, the opportunities gone. Feel the regret. Now picture your life 1 year from now if you begin today, even with small, imperfect steps. See the progress, the growth, the sense of pride. Let this vision guide you, for the mind follows where imagination leads. The Buddha taught impermanence, and procrastination is a denial of that truth. We act as if we have endless time, but life is fleeting. The seasons change, the body ages, loved ones pass. To postpone is to gamble with impermanence, assuming time will wait. But time waits for no one. Each day lost is lost forever. Picture an elderly man sitting by the Charles River in Boston, watching the water flow. He sighs and says, "I thought I had more time." His eyes fill with regret, not for the things he did, but for the things he delayed. This is the ultimate cost of procrastination, the weight of what if. At the end of life, science supports this wisdom. Studies show that procrastination increases stress, damages health, and lowers happiness. It is not laziness but avoidance, a way of escaping uncomfortable emotions. The cure is not harsher discipline but compassionate awareness. Instead of judging yourself for delaying, pause and ask, what am I feeling right now? Fear, overwhelm, fatigue. Meet the feeling with kindness, then take one small step anyway. This is mindfulness in action. There is also the wisdom of accountability. Share your goal with someone you trust. Ask them to check in, to walk beside you. Procrastination thrives in secrecy, but it weakens when exposed. In Buddhism, the Sangha, the community, is essential. Alone, the path feels heavy. Together, the steps grow lighter. Finally, remember the joy of completion. Recall how it feels to finish something, however small, the sense of freedom, of lightness. Let that memory motivate you. For procrastination promises comfort but delivers guilt, while action may require effort but delivers peace. So I ask you now, what dream is waiting for you? What step have you delayed, whispering tomorrow? And what would happen if you chose today instead? Imagine an hourglass before you. The sand is falling, grain by grain. Each moment you delay, the sand slips away. You cannot turn the glass back, but you can choose to use the grain still falling. You can act now, today, this very breath. Procrastination is the thief of time and dreams. Do not let it steal another day. Plant the seed now, water it now, nurture it now. For tomorrow is only a promise. Today is all you truly have. And if you act in this moment, however small the step, you reclaim your freedom. Part 10. Returning to your roots, self-care and spiritual growth. We spend so much of life reaching outward, chasing success, pleasing others, proving ourselves, gathering possessions, that we forget the ground beneath our feet. We forget the roots that nourish us. A tree may grow tall, branches stretching high into the sky, but if its roots wither, it will fall at the first strong wind. So it is with us. Without self-care and spiritual nourishment, all the achievements of the world cannot protect us from collapse. In today's world, self-neglect has almost become a badge of honor. People boast about working late into the night, sacrificing sleep, ignoring hunger, postponing rest, as if exhaustion were proof of worth. We bend ourselves to please others, to meet their expectations, to avoid disappointing them. We wear masks to fit in, forgetting the face beneath. Yet the cost of this forgetting is immense: burnout, emptiness, loneliness. To abandon your own care is to abandon the very source of your strength. The Buddha taught the middle way, not a life of indulgence, nor of self-punishment, but of balance. To care for yourself is not selfish, it is wise. When the body is nourished, the mind can rest. When the spirit is tended, compassion flows more freely. You cannot pour from an empty cup. To serve others, to love deeply, to walk the path of awakening, you must return to your roots. What does this look like in practice? It begins with the body. Listen to its signals. Rest when you are tired. Feed it with wholesome food. Move it with kindness. Walk, stretch, breathe deeply. These simple acts are not luxuries. They are foundations. A temple cannot stand without pillars, and your body is the pillar of your spirit. Then comes the mind. Create space for stillness. Step away from the endless noise of screens, schedules, and demands. Give yourself moments each day to breathe, to sit in silence, to reflect. Meditation is not an escape from life, but a return to it. In the quiet, you remember who you are beneath the noise. And finally, the spirit. This does not mean adopting rituals you do not believe in, but nurturing the dimension of your being that longs for meaning, connection, and awe. Walk in the forest and feel the mystery of life around you. Gaze at the stars and remember your place in the vastness. Pray, meditate, or simply breathe with reverence. Spiritual care roots you in something larger than yourself, giving strength when life shakes your branches. Practical rituals can guide this return. Set aside a Sunday Soul Hour, a time each week dedicated solely to your inner life. No distractions, no obligations, just you and the practices that nourish you. Meditation, journaling, reading sacred texts, or simply sitting in silence. Over time, this rhythm becomes a lifeline, a root that grounds you through all seasons. Picture a giant sequoia in California. Its roots run deep, intertwining with the roots of others, creating a vast underground network of strength. No storm can topple it, because it is not alone, so it is with us. When we tend our own roots, we not only grow strong ourselves, we also strengthen the network of connection with others. Your peace becomes a refuge for those around you. Science affirms this wisdom. Studies show that self-care, adequate sleep, mindful movement, meditation reduces stress, strengthens immunity, and enhances resilience. Spiritual practices, whether prayer or meditation, foster well-being, lower anxiety, and increase compassion. Caring for yourself is not indulgence, it is medicine. So I ask you, when was the last time you truly tended your roots? When was the last time you rested without guilt, breathed without hurry, sat in silence without distraction? What would your life feel like if you made these moments non-negotiable, as essential as food and water? Remember this: the world does not need a version of you that is burned out, resentful, and empty. The world needs you alive, grounded, compassionate, whole. And that begins with caring for yourself. Returning to your roots is not retreat, it is renewal. It is remembering that you are not just a worker, a provider, a role. You are a living being worthy of care, capable of growth, connected to something vast and sacred. When you nourish yourself, you do not turn away from life, you return to it more fully. So take a breath, place your hand over your heart, whisper softly, "I will care for you, I will not abandon you." Feel the truth of those words. Let them sink deep like water into roots. And trust that from this care, a life of peace, compassion, and freedom will bloom. Self-care is often misunderstood. Some think it means indulgence, expensive retreats, luxury items, or escaping responsibilities. But true self-care is much simpler and much deeper. It is choosing to rest when you are tired instead of pushing past your limits. It is choosing food that nourishes your body rather than numbs it. It is choosing to pause for silence instead of drowning in noise. Self-care is not about pampering, it is about presence. It is saying, "I matter, my well-being matters, my spirit matters." The Buddha himself modeled this. Before enlightenment, he practiced severe asceticism, starving and punishing his body. But he realized that weakness only clouded the mind. Only when he accepted nourishment, when he ate, rested, and walked the middle path, did clarity and awakening come. His example reminds us, neglecting yourself in the name of achievement or sacrifice is not noble. Balance is. We also mistake people-pleasing for kindness. We think that by always saying yes, always putting others first, we are living with compassion. But compassion without boundaries is not compassion. It is self-abandonment. When you deplete yourself to satisfy others, resentment grows, exhaustion takes root, and the love you wanted to give becomes polluted by bitterness. To care for yourself is to protect the quality of your love, ensuring it flows from abundance, not depletion. Imagine a well in a small village. If everyone draws from it but no rain refills it, the well runs dry. The village suffers, not because the well was unwilling, but because it was empty. Your spirit is like that well. To serve others, you must allow yourself to be refilled. Spiritual growth is also part of this return. Many confuse spirituality with doctrine or ritual, but at its heart, it is the practice of remembering your connection to all things. It is cultivating compassion, wisdom, and awareness of impermanence. It is realizing that you are more than your job, your possessions, your reputation. You are a being of awareness, capable of peace and love. How do we nourish this? Through simple, steady practice. 10 minutes of meditation each morning. A daily walk in silence, noticing the sky, the trees, your breath. A journal where you reflect on gratitude and intention. These acts root you in your essence. And do not underestimate community. In Buddhism, the Sangha, the community of practitioners, is as vital as the Buddha and the Dharma. Alone, it is easy to forget our values. Together, we remind each other. Spiritual growth is not isolation but connection, being rooted not only in yourself but in the web of humanity. Picture the great redwoods of California. They soar hundreds of feet high, but their roots do not run deep. Instead, they spread wide and intertwine with the roots of others. This is why they withstand storms, they hold one another. You too need this. Self-care roots you individually, and community strengthens you collectively. Together, you can withstand life's fiercest winds. Practical rituals can anchor this return to your roots. Morning grounding. Before reaching for your phone, place both feet on the floor, breathe deeply 3 times, and set one intention for the day. Evening release. Before sleep, place your hand on your heart and whisper, "I did enough. I am enough." Let go of the day's burdens. Weekly renewal. Choose one day to slow down, walk in nature, cook a nourishing meal, spend time in meditation or prayer. Protect this day as sacred. Science now mirrors these ancient truths. Regular self-care practices, sleep, meditation, gratitude, improve not only mental health but physical health, lowering stress and even increasing longevity. Spiritual practices deepen meaning and purpose, which are proven to increase resilience and joy. What the Buddha taught as liberation, modern research confirms as wellness. So I ask you, when you look at your life, are you living rooted or rootless? Are you grounded in care and spirit, or are you a tree toppling in the winds of exhaustion and distraction? And what would happen if you tended your roots with the same devotion you give to your ambitions? Returning to your roots is not retreat from the world. It is preparing yourself to meet it fully. It is remembering that beneath the roles, the tasks, the pressures, you are a being worthy of care. When you live rooted, you are not easily shaken. When storms come, and they always do, you sway but do not fall, and your presence becomes a shelter for others. Picture yourself sitting beneath a great tree. Its trunk is strong, its branches wide, its shade cool. You rest there feeling safe. That is the gift you give when you tend your own roots. You become a place of refuge for yourself and for those you love. So breathe now, feel the ground beneath you. Whisper softly, "I return to my roots. I care for myself. I nourish my spirit." Let those words sink deep, and trust that from this care, a life of balance, compassion, and peace will bloom. Wonderful herb. Since you've confirmed, I'll prepare a concluding chapter that ties all 10 parts together into one unified closing message. This will serve as the emotional and spiritual seal for the entire journey, ensuring your audience leaves with clarity, inspiration, and a sense of wholeness. We began this journey with the restless mind, weighed down by overthinking. We walked through the shadows of self-doubt, the fire of resentment, the heavy backpack of worry, the chains of procrastination, and all the quiet habits that keep us from peace. Each chapter revealed the same truth. Suffering does not come from the world itself, but from the habits we cling to within. The Buddha's teaching is simple yet profound. Peace is not found in grasping, but in letting go. To release the poisoned arrows of negative self-talk, fear, comparison, and resentment is to free ourselves from the prison we built. Each habit we abandon is not a loss, but a return to our roots, our wholeness, our true nature. Life will never stop changing. There will always be uncertainty, challenge, imperfection. But within every breath lies the choice to meet life differently. Instead of carrying burdens, we can set them down. Instead of staring over the fence, we can tend our own garden. Instead of waiting for tomorrow, we can live today. And in this letting go, we discover the gifts that were always here: presence, compassion, freedom. So I leave you with a question, simple yet powerful. Which habit will you release first? What chain will you loosen today so that your heart may walk more lightly, your spirit shine more freely? Remember this, peace does not wait at the end of the path. Peace is the path, and with every small act of release, every moment of awareness, you are already home. We have traveled a long road together, exploring 13 habits that slowly but surely steal our inner peace. From overthinking to self-doubt, from resentment to procrastination, each one disguises itself as something necessary. even protective, but in truth it weighs us down. What began as small patterns of thought and behavior grows into heavy chains. And yet, the Buddha's timeless wisdom shows us that these chains are not locked. They are held in place by our grasping. The moment we learn to let go, we discover we have always been free. The first habit we encountered was overthinking, the restless mind that refuses to rest. We saw how it robs us of sleep, drains our joy, and convinces us that rehearsing every possible disaster will somehow make us safe. But the truth is, peace is not found in predicting the future, but in breathing the present. By practicing mindfulness, by embracing rituals of digital rest, by learning to trust impermanence, we remember that the sky of our mind is vast and clear, and clouds of worry need not stay forever. Next, we confronted negative self-talk, the cruel voice within that whispers, "You are not enough." We discovered that this voice is not truth, only a broken record playing echoes of old wounds. Through compassion, through affirmations of kindness, through practices like metta meditation, we reclaim the voice within. We learn to speak to ourselves as we would to a dear friend, transforming the inner critic into an inner ally. Then came fear of failure. How many dreams remain unborn because of its grip? We saw that failure is not a verdict but a teacher. Each stumble strengthens us, each mistake carves the path forward. The only true failure is never daring to begin. By shifting perspective, by practicing right effort, by meeting fear with compassion, we turn the shackles of failure into stepping stones of wisdom. We walked into the shadow of self-doubt, the silent wall that convinces us we are not capable, not ready, not worthy. But we learned that this wall is not made of stone. It is made of old words, old memories, old fears. And brick by brick, through awareness, small victories, and compassion, we can dismantle it. Beyond the wall lies not shame but freedom. We shouldered the backpack of worry, heavy with what-if stones. We realized how often we suffer more in imagination than in reality. 90% of worries never happen, yet we live as if every cloud were a storm. By sorting what we can control from what we cannot, by practicing symbolic release, by grounding ourselves in gratitude, we learn to put the backpack down and walk lighter. We then face the fire of resentment, the grudge we believe burns others but which consumes us first. We saw that forgiveness does not mean excusing harm but freeing ourselves from the chains of the past. Through compassion, symbolic rituals of release, and the wisdom of impermanence, we cool the fire, clear the smoke, and breathe peace again. We stepped into the field of comparison where envy thrives. By staring over the fence, we neglect our own garden. But we discovered that no two gardens are the same, no two paths are alike. The rose does not envy the lotus, nor the lotus the rose. Each blooms in its own way. By practicing gratitude and mudita, rejoicing in others' joy, we stop competing and start cultivating our own soil. We explored change, the impermanence that makes many tremble. Yet we saw that change is not a threat but the very rhythm of life. Without change, no healing, no growth, no renewal would be possible. By practicing acceptance, small daily micro-leaps, and mindfulness of impermanence, we transform fear into freedom. We then unmasked procrastination, the thief of time and dreams. It does not destroy with violence but with delay. Not today becomes never. We learned that by shrinking the mountain into steps, creating sacred time, and beginning imperfectly, we reclaim our days. Life will not wait. Each grain of sand that falls in the hourglass is lost forever. The best time to begin is always now. Finally, we return to the last cluster of habits: people-pleasing, neglect of self-care, and ignoring spirituality. We realize that pouring from an empty cup is not compassion, it is depletion. The Buddha himself discovered that neglecting the body clouds the mind. Balance, the middle way, is the path. To care for ourselves physically, emotionally, and spiritually is not selfish. It is essential. Only when we return to our roots, nourishing body, mind, and spirit, can we stand tall like the great redwoods, grounded and resilient, offering shade and refuge to others. Together, these 10 parts have revealed a single truth. Peace is not found by adding more to our lives, but by releasing what no longer serves us. Overthinking, self-criticism, fear, doubt, worry, resentment, comparison, resistance, delay, self-neglect. These are not signs of our worthlessness, but signs of our humanness. And because they are habits, not destiny, they can be unlearned. The deeper lesson. The deeper lesson is this: freedom lies not in controlling life, but in changing our relationship to it. We cannot stop change, prevent uncertainty, or avoid every loss, but we can learn to let go of the habits that amplify suffering. We can choose presence over overthinking, compassion over criticism, courage over fear, trust over doubt, gratitude over envy, and action over delay. Buddhism teaches that liberation is not somewhere far away. It is found in the way we live each moment. By tending our minds, by softening our hearts, by caring for our bodies and spirits, we discover that peace has always been within reach. Application in daily life. How can we apply these lessons in today's world, a world buzzing with distraction and pressure? Begin small. Choose one habit to release today. Perhaps turn off devices an hour before sleep, or speak one kind word to yourself, or take one small step on a dream you've delayed. Practice presence. When you eat, just eat. When you walk, just walk. Bring your whole self into the act. Create rituals. A morning breath of gratitude, an evening release of the day, a weekly hour for silence or spiritual reflection. These roots will keep you grounded. Cultivate community. Share your journey with others. Encourage, listen, and grow together. Just as redwoods stand strong by intertwining roots, so too do we. Each act is small, but together they form a life of balance, peace, and meaning. Invitation to the audience. Now, I invite you to reflect. Which of these habits spoke to you most deeply? Which chain do you feel ready to loosen first? What practice will you carry into tomorrow? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your insight may be the very encouragement someone else needs on their journey. And if this journey touched you, I ask for your support. Subscribe to Buddhism in every moment so we can continue creating content that nourishes the heart, inspires the spirit, and brings the timeless wisdom of the Buddha into our everyday lives. Your presence, your voice, your encouragement, it gives us the strength to keep going. Together, may we walk this path of letting go and living fully. Together, may we learn not only to seek peace but to embody it. For peace is not at the end of the road. Peace is here, now, waiting in the breath you take, the thought you release, the compassion you offer.